knew right away that there's more and I'm going to go find it. Didn't know where that was going to take me. But that feeling was so significant. I got that all from just listening to these two guys talk. Like you and me are sitting here talking, and we can only hope that one person hears this and goes, oh,
yeah,
right? Yeah. That's the thing. That's the dream, is that you can impact someone else in a meaningful way that they just didn't necessarily know was going to happen or intend to happen. And that the power of those conversations was just so obvious to me right away. And I said, I want to be a part of that.
Hey, I am so excited that you guys get to either watch or listen to this episode. I get to talk with Rob Ingalls, who is the CEO of Lawpods, which is a podcast production company that helps lawyers use podcasting so that people know, like, and trust them. And as I was talking with Rob, man, this dude is a storyteller, and we'll talk about some tactical things for sure. Like at the end, we specifically ask the question and talk about how often should you post to make an impact. But one of the things you'll really hear is his heart around podcasting and the impact that it's made on his life. He's literally said podcasts, these two specific episodes have changed his life. And so I'm excited for you to hear about the impact that podcasting can have on the lives of real people and get into some tactical things at the end. Let's get into it. So Rob, you are a lawyer turned podcast producer guy, and I'd love to know, can you just share that story? Like that's a crazy shift. And I think it would be interesting for people just to like hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, it will never get old hearing that, because I mean, this all started as just like this weird little hobby in my spare bedroom. Like I treasure those pictures of my first house with my wife before we were married, in this little bedroom with a queen bed in it, which took up most of the room. There's this little chair beside it, and I've got all my stuff laid out on the bed. I've got this little like 4-channel mixer that wouldn't even do a mix minus, plugged into the H5.
Yes.
And all of these cords running around. And like, I had just listened to my first podcast like a month earlier. And I was like, this stuff's amazing. I want to do this. And I'm on searching. And I don't know if I feel like anybody who started podcasting 10 years ago knows who Cliff Ravenscraft is. He was the man. And that's not to say he's not still the man.
Sure.
But there was just not as many people in the space. So if you were learning, you were probably learning from Cliff. Yeah. And I was just listening to all his stuff. He had this that's why I'm using this mic.
That's crazy.
Because that's the mic that Cliff used. And that's what he recommended. And I think John Lee Dumas was using the same mic. And of course, he learned a podcast from Cliff. And I was, it was kind of an interesting moment because I loved it, but I never for a moment thought that it would be a career. It was just like, I listened to my first podcast. It resonated with me, and I knew I had something to say. And so I wanted to do it, but I was a lawyer. Yeah. I'd spent all this time and all this money going to school and learning to practice, which is very different than what you learn in school. And so the idea that I could just like do something I thought was cool,
right?
Like, you don't get to do things you think are cool. You do the things you have to do. Like my father worked at a paper mill his whole life. I think he did 45 years at a paper mill. And I don't think he ever thought like, oh, I like working at a paper mill. I like having a job.
Right. Exactly.
I like having a job that I know is going to be there, that provides for my family and it has benefits. And he drove an hour each way for 45 years
Yep.
and just never complained. And, so that's where I come from. And this idea that I'm going to stop, that I would stop being a lawyer to do something that I thought was cool, was just a bananas thought. But the short story of where it actually all started was I got married in 2015, in March of 2015. And we kind of had this thought, like, maybe we'll have kids, maybe we won't. Like, if we do, that'd be fine, was kind of the way we both approached it, which was a really silly thing because I was almost 35. She had just turned 36. And I don't think we were thinking about biology at all. But it took her about 3 or 4 months after we got married to start thinking about it real close. And I think it kind of hit her and she went, oh, we need to do that now. And I was like now? And she was like, I mean, like TikTok. And man, I really, I'd like to tell you that I had a really appropriate emotional response to this, but that is not what happened. I kind of had a proper freak out. And mostly that was because I was really scared because I was practicing law. I had my own law firm. I had employees. To the outside world, it looked like I was on the track. I was doing the thing. I was very busy. But man, I was falling apart. Like I wasn't making any money. Like I was bringing some in, but I wasn't keeping any. As a business owner, you know what that's like. It doesn't matter how much is on the top line.
Yep.
What's on the bottom. Yep. And so there was almost nothing there. And that was really stressful for me. Just having a wife and not really making any money is scary.
Yes.
And then I hated my work. I was always stressed. I was just like always so stressed and barely hanging on. I didn't realize how stressed and how barely hanging on I was because anything can become normal. But with some reflection, and then once it was gone, you realize like, holy shit, I was in a mental health crisis. And then she's like, I want to have a baby. And then now I'm going to have to like pay for a baby and figure that out. And then be somebody's like primary mentor in life. And I didn't think I was ready for that either. And so I kind of freaked out. And then once I pulled myself together a little bit, I sat down and I made a list. I still have this list. I don't know what that says about me, but I'm glad I have it.
Yeah.
But it said, well, I didn't understand at the moment that it was going to be like a thing in my life, like this fucking list. Like when you make a thing, like when most of the moments in your life, you don't know that they're happening when they're happening. Like just the ones that might resonate. But at the top of the list is money. Like I've got to get my finances together. Yeah. I've got to figure this out. So I picked up a second job it's called document review. It's basically like reviewing litigation, like large litigation, reviewing documents. It's soul sucking work, but there was a little extra money I could make on the side.
Yeah.
And it's like the best way to think about it is like it's kind of like a sweatshop for lawyers. They'll put 200 of you in a room, all like arm to arm, like clicking through documents. It's terrible, but it's pretty mindless. So it gave me a lot of time to think and listen. And so I'm listening. I get this audiobook from Dave Ramsey about, Total Money Makeover was the name of it. Good book. I mean, it was nice. It was the first finance book I'd ever read. And then he had another book called EntreLeadership. And I thought, all right, well, I'm struggling to make money at this law office. I'll try to lead that. Well, that book says at the end, you should listen to our podcast. It's like September 15. I've never listened to a podcast. And so I opened the app, I listened to their podcast, one episode, not really for me. Just, I don't know. You listen to those podcasts where you're like, yeah. And it wasn't Dave Ramsey. It was like some other guys.
Gotcha.
And which I understand now is, of course, how a brand gets built. You build the brand. Yep. And then once you have a big enough brand, you bring in other people to like run parts of that. Like right now, I have a business. I used to be the podcast editor and the graphic designer and the writer. Yep. And now I don't do any of that. Because why would I, right? And so I don't listen to that one. But of course, I'm in Apple Podcast, and it's like, if you like EntreLeadership, you might also like. And it was, the first one I saw was this show called Awesome Office. It's now a defunct show, but as like most of the podcasts any of us have ever created became. And the first guest was Tom Bilyeu, and founder, for anybody who doesn't know this, founder of Quest Nutrition, Quest bars, like the protein. And he was talking about mindset and where he started. He went to film school, and he just talked about who he was and the way he thought about the world. And it really resonated with me because that's the way I thought about the world. For anybody that's ever read Mindset or understands the concept, classic fixed mindset. Just, I am who I am. I'm this kind of person. I'm good at this. I'm not good at that. And like the takeaway from those 2 episodes, it was like the very first 2 episodes of the show were, you can, like, nothing that you've done matters. You can do anything you want. Like, you can basically, what we got told a million times as a kid, you can be anything you want when you grow up.
Right.
But that just, I don't know, man, you hear things so many times and they just don't resonate.
Yeah.
Like, you hear it, but you're like, I don't even know what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And man, but I heard it. I heard it wrapped in this package of someone that I could relate to, someone who was describing the very same feelings I'd felt my whole life. Like, I'm just not good at that. Dude, I told myself for the first 35 years of my life, I'm just not creative.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like, that is self-abuse.
Yeah.
That I would tell myself that, because I write, like, now one of the few things I still am kind of involved in is writing some of the copy for our shows, that like intros, outros, ad reads, that creative copy. I'm really good at that. I mean, just some of the stuff I've written is being used at the very largest law firms in the world.
Wow.
And it's good in the way that I can, like, write it with the thought of how the voiceover is going to say it, and then how we're going to make the music work right under it, and just kind of sitting back and directing. And then when it comes to graphic design, I'm not a graphic designer, but I can get a graphic designer to the homeland. Like, I can get you, we're going to do some iterations. I'm going to say this. I'm going to be like, what about this? What if that worked? I'm creative as fuck. Yeah. But I didn't know it, because I always thought creativity was drawing or playing music. And I just was never very good at any of that. And so I just, I don't know, I'm not creative. And I can understand why I had so much angst in my life, because now I can feel when I'm not being creative enough. Like, I can feel the angst, like, rise. Yeah. Like, it's almost like Eddie Vedder described it really well. He has it way worse than me. But I listened to an audiobook from him, and he described, he's like, I'm so prolific, not because I want to be. He's like, because I have to be. He's like, there's a demon inside me that has to be exercised. And he's like, I hope my kids don't get it. He's like, because it's almost like it's too much. I've got to get it out. And I understand that feeling on a small scale, because I love it. I love all of it so much. And I feel like I've gone on a tangent. But ultimately, just listening to Tom just tell me that he understood where I was, and that there was a different way forward. It just kind of unlocked this idea of, like, you can do something. I don't know. I had no idea on that September day what I was going to do. I mean, if you could go back right this moment and ask that man on the street hours after he listened to that podcast, you would see a person in an interesting place, because I remember how I felt. Like, I felt like I could just, like, feel every cell in my body, because I just was, like, up. But I think he would have told you that it would have been something in law. I'm almost positive. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but it'll be something in this space. Because that's what I chased for a while. Those were like my business ideas, were things attached to law. Because I don't think I could think any bigger than that. You know, you only know what you know. And I don't think I could think any bigger. I don't think I could give myself license to be the other person yet. Like that was a lot of self-reflection and growth. It took years. I mean, this was September of 15. I didn't commit to leaving law for more than 2 years. And then I didn't actually make it a full reality for almost 3 years.
Wow.
But yeah, from that moment, I started researching gear. I found Cliff, and I bought this mic that I'm talking into. That's why I'm talking to Ohio. And I just started figuring it out. I started, I think, 6 or 7 months later, podcasting has just been such a cool presence in my life. I just started practicing and doing it with one of my friends in my law office at night. And then I launched my first podcast on July 1st of 2016. And it was called the Future Self Podcast. Still available. Haven't published an episode since March of 18, almost 8 years.
Yeah.
But I'm going to come back to it.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to it.
Words.
Well, that's why I never let it go, because
Sure.
it's on hiatus.
Yeah.
But it was time for me. That podcast was all about, I started it tried to be like a podcast involved in my law practice, but I found out quickly after 10 episodes, I peeled it off because I was like, I can't talk about law. This sucks. But it was just about doing things today, making the decisions today that a future version of you would look back and be like, fuck yeah, I appreciate you. I really appreciate all the work you did. And man, I think about that podcast all the time because it was my first podcast.
Video needs to do something for your business. And here at the Cincinnati Podcast Studio, we create video content that helps people know, like, and trust you because it's you on camera. We love talking head video content, whether it's podcast format, webinars, or other social media content. We want to feature the people behind the brands because we believe that when people see your face and hear what you think, that will attract the right kind of customer. If you're a CEO, a thought leader, a marketer here in the greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, I'd love to talk with you. Just book a discovery call today at cincinnatipodcaststudio.com/discovery or click the link in the description.
I'm so proud of that guy that made those 37 or whatever episodes of the Future Self podcast, because that guy, what he did is so much more badass than what I'm doing right now. He, at this point, I found out I was pregnant with I was pregnant.
Right.
I found out my wife was pregnant. We were pregnant with our first daughter the next morning after I launched the podcast.
Wow.
Because we were getting ready to go to a wedding, and we took a pregnancy test, and I didn't think about the significance at the time, but it's just everything good in my life, it revolves around this. I'm at home right now. You were asking me earlier, I think off the mic, is this am I at my house? And I'm like, yeah, it's cool, isn't it?
Right.
I've got my sign. I mean, and even over here, I've got my pegboard with all the things that matter to me up there. I've got my mixer and my lights and my camera and this, and I've got my 2 tube lights back there. And man, I wish, I wish 8 years ago, guy could see that this is amazing. I have a cockpit here.
Yeah.
But he did all the work. What I do, it's hard.
Yeah.
But I have 11 people that work for me.
Wow.
I have good clients. We make steady income.
Yeah.
Now there's a lot of stressors that come with that. I've got to figure a lot of stuff out.
Yeah.
But it's working. 8 years ago, man, that was nothing. I mean, I went and got a full-time job at a bank, because I had to make some money because that baby existed.
Yeah, right.
And I was getting out of law. I wasn't making any money there to start with.
Yeah.
And that was a really scary time. I didn't have any money. I've got this baby. My wife is like, you got to figure something out. She was super nice about it, but like they started garnishing her paycheck for my unpaid taxes.
Wow.
I hope you and nobody else listening has had this happen, because it is a very low moment in my life. I'm not handling my shit. I've got a baby. My wife, who is the primary breadwinner, is losing some of her money. I've got a screenshot of that text message saved because it's so important just to me to know, like I did it. I did the hard thing. Like it was really hard.
Yeah.
But I buckled down. I got that job. I was somehow able to start the business and grow it over those years, and somehow managed to work there for 2 years almost without getting fired, while I was like constantly bobbing and weaving, like constantly on the road, going to clients' offices and hauling my gear, taking calls from like the Starbucks and the Harris Teeter with my battery dying. And like, man, it was crazy. But it worked. And like that guy did all that hustle. Like I get up 12 feet that way. I like get my kids ready for school. My wife and I drive them to school together. I come home, I have some more coffee. I kind of chill for a minute, talk to the dog, and then I come up here. And like all that hustle made this possible. So like that guy is just like my hero.
Man, that's honestly, I didn't realize you were this great of a storyteller. So this is, and obviously it's a story that's super meaningful and to you, but that was super cool. You did say one thing earlier that was interesting. So you talked about the first podcast you listened to, and you said it resonated with you. Can you like describe like what about it what was it, the medium? Was it just, hey, it was what you needed to hear when you needed to hear it? Or like, it was just interesting you used the word like it resonated with me.
Yeah. I'm glad you called that out, because it is more than one of those things. It's kind of a perfect little storm. It's like when you meet, you've dated a lot of girls and you meet one and you're like, this feels different. I listened to the podcast, and it was the first thing that struck me was the content. Was this is really interesting, and somebody's talking to me about things that I don't know. I'd never heard anyone talk like that, and if I had, it hadn't resonated with me.
Yeah.
But I just heard him being very vulnerable and describing the thoughts that I had in my head, the way I talk to myself, and then giving me a path forward, a way to something that's better than where I am. And I said, oh, and I mean, I became I started worshiping at the altar of Tom Bilyeu for years after that. Just because it was all like, he still worked at Quest at the time. He had this show called Inside Quest. And it was really unique because it was all about mindset and optimization. And I mean, there's so much content about that now, and there was then, but his was really good. And he had just incredible guests on, and you can still find those. Somebody has downloaded them all and put them on YouTube. All of his old Inside Quest shows.
Wow.
Because I think when he left Quest, I think they took him down.
Okay.
But they're incredible. But back to that episode, or those 2 episodes, which I went and found. I'm on another tangent, but I went and found them years later because the show disappeared, and I wanted to like re-listen. And I had to spend a lot of time, because I even emailed the guy who made the show I got up with him on LinkedIn, and he got back to me and he's like, we might have them. And that never turned up anything. But I was able to go on like the Wayback Machine.
Oh,
and
right.
Just dig around.
Yeah.
Because it was on Libsyn, but Libsyn's file didn't work. And I just dug around on Wayback long enough that I found some live MP3 links that allowed me to download the episode. And I have it on my phone. Like I have both episodes on my phone now, just so I can listen to them, just to like revisit. So other than the content, what struck me was these two guys at some point in the past sat down and had a conversation. And then I just happened to be living my life and I stumbled across it. Like I literally just happened across it as a recommendation based on something else I'd listened to.
Yeah.
And then it changed the trajectory of my life. And obviously I didn't know it was going to change the trajectory of my life at the time. So in hindsight, it's even more significant. But I could feel that something happened. There was me before I listened to those two episodes and me after, because I knew, like, I had just been rattled and I realized, oh, there's more. And it sent me in the direction I knew right away that there's more and I'm going to go find it. Didn't know where that was going to take me. But that feeling was so significant. And I got that all from just listening to these two guys talk. Like you and me are sitting here talking. And we can only hope that one person hears this and goes, oh,
yeah,
right? Yeah. That's the thing. That's the dream, is that you can impact someone else in a meaningful way that they just didn't necessarily know was going to happen or intend to happen. And that the power of those conversations was just so obvious to me right away. And I said, I want to be a part of that. I want in. And then I got, I started to buy the stuff and I was like, this is amazing. Like all the gear, like I was just talking to my creative director earlier, who is also a lawyer, and she has a similar story. She hated it. But we were talking about the arm, and I was asking her, because I'm always thinking of random stuff. I was like, how often do you have to, put some WD-40 on these? Because I got to do mine about once a year.
Sure.
About once a year, I got to get in here, especially like this part.
Yeah.
And then we just started talking about the pieces, and I was like, I started with the mic, just on a floor mic stand.
Yep.
And this thing's hella heavy, so you got to like balance it right.
Yeah.
And then a few years later, I'd been looking at this thing forever because Cliff had it on his website, the shock mount. But it was $99. Like, who has $99 for a shock mount? Right. Not this guy.
Right.
And then this thing was like $120, the arm. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be so cool when I get all that, And so just like little by little, I was just nerding out on the gear. And then I remember I got my first Rodecaster and I was like, this is game changer. And it was.
Right.
I've got the 2 on my desk now.
Yep.
And just, I love the gear. I have a closet right behind me here. It's a huge walk-in closet, and it's got like one of the walls is just drawers that slide out, and each level is just like, I got my microphone, my camera gear, and my cords. Like I love having one whole slide out just for cords, because I can have my XLR cords and the HDMI cords here, and every kind of cord is just wrapped and strapped and put in its spot. And it brings me so much joy to just like, whenever somebody says, do you have that cord? I'm like, I've got that cord.
Yep. And I know where it is.
It's not the dad box,
Right.
Yeah, it's not the dad box of like, here's a, original PlayStation 1 cord.
Yep.
Amazon has those if you need them.
Right.
But like,
right.
I mean, in general, like I love it. And I love the organization of it, because I also, prior to all of this, was a highly disorganized person. And through podcasting and personal development, I knew that was a thing I wanted. I wanted organization. I was so jealous. I mean, I went to school with this kid, Brandon, and he was the kid in school who had the perfect trapper keeper. Everything was organized and divided, and his pencils were always sharpened. He always had everything. He was so well put together. I just had shit falling out of my book bag.
Yeah.
And I just thought about him all the time. Like, I want to be this guy. And I'm not there yet, but damn, my shit is like, I'm pretty organized. Like my things are pretty tight.
Awesome.
And that was just like my personal development journey.
What was that something else you told? Because you told yourself you weren't creative. Did you also tell yourself that you weren't organized, or just thought that?
Yeah, I definitely thought that.
Okay.
I thought like, why can't I just felt like it was such a deficiency. Like, why can't I be organized? Because I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because there's some things in my life that I had just written off because the pain of admitting that maybe I could do it and I wasn't was too heavy for me to absorb at that moment. I think I have the opposite problem now. I think I should be able to do anything I want all the time. And I'm like, bro, you only have one lifetime.
Right. 24 hours in the day, you should sleep.
Yeah. Like, calm down. Calm down. But it was something I really, really wanted. And I would try. I would like clean up my apartment and I would put all my shirts up and I'd color code them. But man, it was a couple of days and it was chaos again. I just couldn't maintain it because I realized through learning that you have to practice. You've got to learn how. You can't just simply want to do a thing because being organized is not, it's less of like a thing you do and more of a way of being. You do not organize every once in a while. You are organized.
Yep.
And that's it's very different than coming in once a week. It's like when I am finished with something, I should wrap it, strap it, and put it down.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still struggle, like, especially when I'm really busy, like my desk gets a little messier than I want it to. But for the most part, like a place for everything and everything in its place, you know? And I love the little, I love the little boards with the elastic on them. They're all like like cross mesh.
Yes. Yeah.
I love those because you can just like tuck stuff under them and like you just got everything. And I'm big into bags, like my travel bag. I use a Nomad bag to travel, backpack, and like, oh, they're so wonderful, man. And that's little
gonna
pockets.
be my next bag.
Man. Yeah, I got mine here. Oh, I love this thing so much. Nomad does not give me money, but feel free to send me bags. I'll test them for you.
Right.
But yeah, I love that bag so much. But it helps me stay organized because there's a little place. If I need my travel charger, I know exactly where it is. Yeah. If I need this cord, I know exactly where it is.
Yep.
And man, the amount of stress that takes off of you to just know that you know where your things are, you can access them quickly. And you roll them back up. That's even a good feeling of knowing how to like roll a cable up.
Yeah.
Like underhand like that, underhand like that, underhand. And because that was always a problem. I try to roll a cable up and it wouldn't roll right. It'd be all like trying to get out.
Yes.
And it's just a thing you don't know. You don't know, oh, there's a way to do this.
Yes.
And I watched someone show me how to do it.
Right.
Yeah. I'll tell you the one reason I miss wired headphones to your phone. The only thing I miss is I learned how to keep them. I would, like, this guy on YouTube taught me, you like put your two fingers out, you drop just enough over it, and then you wrap, and then you go around the outside and then through, and bam. Like they're wrapped up and folded and beautiful, and they don't get tangled. When you're ready to use them, you just undo them. Man, gives me a good feeling just talking about it. I love organization.
I love it. Well, so going back to the podcast that resonated and why it resonated and the thing, so I was introduced to you by Rich Cardona, and he's awesome. And the thing he said in our discussion was that podcasting is the most intimate form of marketing. And it's just so interesting that, you were in a really a vulnerable space, really. And you were in a place where you needed change. You needed that voice in your life. And you said it changed the trajectory of your life. And I think, sometimes we often think about podcasting for marketing purposes and all these different things, which is 100% true and should be a thing and all of that. I think there's something that you're hitting on about this almost like other benefit to podcasting, where it's like, I'm not sure if you bought anything from these podcasts that you listen to, but like they gained so much traction in your heart and mind that it enabled you to go a completely life-changing different direction. And like the value of that like is huge, right? To literally have helped somebody's life change. Like that is, whether or not they buy something from you or not, like that's so massive. And like that's what we need, right? And we need those voices. And that's just, I don't know.
I think that's good marketing too, though.
Yeah.
Because it's the idea, and Gary V, he was someone that was very instrumental early of just like, tell everyone to fuck off and go do your thing. Like, don't worry about the noise.
Yeah.
He like, some people are like, oh, he's really loud and really brash. I don't care. I've always kind of just scoffed at people who can't find the diamond, like in the rough, if you will. As an extreme example, if Adolf Hitler published the best recipe for pizza, I would cook that shit regularly.
Sure.
He can eat shit with like a lot of his other philosophy.
Yes.
But I'm not going to not eat the pizza because the guy was also an asshole.
Right.
Yeah. And I can do that for anything. I can separate the message from the messenger.
Yeah.
But I mean, for Gary V, I like him fine. I don't listen to him nearly as much as I used to because I, for the most part, got the thing I needed from him.
Yep.
But I listen to him now just because his finger's on the pulse.
Yeah.
Like he's been right so many times.
Yep.
That it'd be silly to ignore him.
Exactly.
But the idea I loved from him, he wrote a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And it's give, 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 ask.
Yeah.
And most marketing is all ask.
Yeah.
Buy my thing, buy my stuff, buy this, go here, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, buy this. Why? I don't even know who you are. And that was very powerful for me, and I live it and I think it. It's the way I do business. I don't ask for almost anything. When I go on a lot of podcasts, it's a big part of my marketing is being a guest on podcast, and I'm not going to ask for anything. Even when I know my like absolute target market is listening, I have nothing to sell you. I will sell you something if it turns out that what I have can be of value to you. But I want what I got that you just described. I want to help people. And I say that with full sincerity. Because that feeling that I get, like I've had it a couple times, a handful of times in real life. I hired an intern at my law office, and the only reason I hired him is because he was such a disaster. He was a smart kid, but he walks in and he looks like he's wearing his dad's suit, like he's like 10 years old, suits like down, like past his, knuckles. And he's got these like awful glasses on. His hair is just like cut right across the front. He's just the cutest little disaster in the world. And I was like, you're hired, kid. And over the course of a year, I just worked with him. He didn't know any of this was happening while it was happening. But I just like hung out with him, talked to him, was a friend and a mentor, took him shopping when I'd finally gained some trust.
Yes.
bought him his first pair of designer jeans.
There you go.
And by the next year, by 12 months later, he just like, I've got the two pictures side by side of him at like, it's called the Barrister's Ball. It's like the law school prom of him in his like dad's suit at the law school prom, to 12 months later, he's like in this trim little suit. He's got these like good glasses. His hair is nice because I got him onto a good salon. And I mean, just the juxtaposition of those two pictures is incredible. But I love that. And I ended up officiating his wedding. Wow. And at his bachelor party, he pulled me aside and just he was just like, man, you're the most important man in my life. Wow. He's like, you just the time and energy you took out. He's like, I'm getting married because I met you. And I'm like, fuck, man. Like, I'm getting upset. Wow. I'm getting emotional about it now. But like that we should all be chasing that every day. Yeah. Like every day, I hope that I can impact someone. Yeah. Because I mean, it almost feels selfish because it feels so good to like matter in someone's life. I don't know what that says about me. My therapist and I've been digging around in that hole for a lot of years. Sure. But that's okay. Yeah. Because it's the world around us gets better when we help people. Yes. Because then they go on to maximize their potential and they can then help other people. Like they can put themselves out in the world in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. Because it's, you call it helping people, but it's really just helping them help themselves. Because I can't do any of the work. I can't make you do the hard thing. I can just show you what you're capable of. Yeah. I can believe in you. And that's what I felt like when I was listening to Tom on that podcast and then other people, is it was people that understood where I was and they wanted to help. Yeah. Tom particularly was, especially in the early years, that's all he cared about. He even talked about it a lot. He talked about the Matrix. He was like, I want to wake as many people as I can from the Matrix. And he was talking about the experience I had. Wow. And he like, that was like his goal. One of his goals in life was to just help people just go, oh, there's more. I don't have to stay on this path. I can go. And there was this whole group at one point. I can't even remember what they're called now, but it was called like IQX. It was like Inside Quest something. It was basically just like adherence to the religion of Tom Bilyeu. And I'm sure the Facebook group still exists. I need to look, but there was a bunch of us in there and we were all just like rattled. We all had just heard him and went and woke up. And so like that, understanding that is available to us. And that we could also do that. Because I mean, ultimately, I want to get back to a place. I think we were off the mic when we were talking. We're talking about the Future Self podcast on here, right? Yeah. I get confused. That's why I want to come back to that podcast at some point, because it means something to me. Yeah. And I'm so impressed. Like my future self is so proud of that guy.
Man, that first episode back is going to be crazy. Just to think
I think
about
that's why it's
right?
taken me a long time, because I'm like, because like you did it, bro. You did it. Yeah. But like that's a lot of my heart lies in wanting to do things like that, wanting to make these kind of conversations available to people.
Well, so let's talk a little bit more about that piece. Like you talked about how podcasting like helped you think, like realize what you were capable of, but like, let's talk about the medium. And so like you specifically work with a lot of lawyers, right? And so like, I'm curious just from, I'm curious what different things can kind of translate to not just lawyers, but like in general. But like, why is podcasting such a good medium for lawyers? You know what I mean?
And it did that. Your question kind of reminded me of your last question that I decided to run all around But the intimacy of it, you said,
Yeah.
Rich said it was like such an intimate form of marketing. And that's a big part of it for everybody.
Yeah.
Is like right now, we're just talking. I'm talking into a good mic. You're talking into a good mic. But even if we weren't, good mics make it better.
Yeah.
But we're having this conversation just on a Wednesday at 3:58 p.m. Eastern time. And somebody might hear this in 4 years and it might mean something to them.
Yeah.
And we're basically whispering in their ears
Right.
as we talk. They can hear when I pause. They can hear when you ask me a question that makes me really have to think. And I go, that means something.
Yep.
They're being led into my world in these really intimate ways of hearing my voice, the cadence, the emotion, in a way that you don't really get to do. I mean, you don't get to do that in everyday life. Like you talk to people, but you don't get to just put your ear on the wall and hear two people having just an honest conversation where they are open and they want to help and they're sharing. Have you ever met a podcast host that you really like in person?
Actually, for the first time a week ago. Yeah.
Tell me about it. Who was it?
So it was Brady Shearer and Alex Mills. So I was the director of communications at my church for a while, and they had a show called the Pro Church Tool Show, and they talked about church communications. So for years, I've listened to these guys and just their back and forth, their banter, like knowing like one guy is super into coffee and mushrooms and the other guy is really into like cologne and fragrances, but they also love the Toronto Maple Leafs because they're from Canada. And but they're also like super knowledgeable about the things that I needed to grow in and know about. And so anyways, last week I got to interview them. Actually, the episode's coming out today. And it was insane getting to actually talk with these guys that like I've DM'd. I over the years, I've submitted questions that they've answered on their podcast. And like, it was, and they were super normal, like regular dudes. But like, I'm just like, I don't think you all understand how, like, they taught me things about color grading. They taught me like all these different pieces that have even led into how I can run this podcast studio business here. Like it's, and they're the prime example I always go to of this was a podcast from a business, and because of me listening to them for years, when I was ready to buy, I didn't even want to go with anyone else. I didn't even want to research anything else because I trusted them.
And I don't care what they're charging.
Yeah, 100%.
Like I'm not price sensitive.
I have to work with them. Like
whatever they're charging is obviously reasonable or they wouldn't charge it.
100%. Yep. And I knew their philosophy. I knew all the ways they thought that went into their product. And it's not like they even talked about their product all that much. Like they threw out things like every once in a while, but yeah, I trusted them. So that was like just a insane experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much there.
Yeah.
And tell me what it felt like when you first heard one of them speak in your presence. Because that is the jarring part.
Yeah, it didn't feel real. Like
because it's always been here.
Yes,
well, it's always been on a screen.
Even when I was editing it, because they have their own studio or whatever, I'm just like I'm editing, but it's like it literally feels like I like ripped off their video from YouTube and like was reacting to it, like. I'm just like, what the heck? Like, anyways, yeah. That was
Yeah.
how was the feeling.
Yeah. And then there's you have so much immediate trust.
Yeah.
Because you've sat and you've listened and they've given you so much value.
Yeah.
And they didn't ask for anything in return.
Yeah.
They gave you value. I mean, they understood their market.
Yeah.
They understood, if you're going to use your time on something, you have to understand, like, why are you doing it? Who are you doing it for? Why would they pay attention? How does this whole thing turn into money? Like, you have to use your time in a way that's going to provide for you in some way, but it can be a little more attenuated, I think, than some people think.
Yeah.
And they built that bond over time. And the amount of trust, like, you'll send anyone who needs it to them. You're going to send it to them, of course.
Yes.
I mean, I can't even tell you how many people to this day, if somebody asks me how I got into podcasting, Tom Bilyeu is going to come up, and I'm going to, say nothing but good things about him. And I've sent so many people to him over the years, and I love that. I love the bond that you create with somebody doing that. But then I remember the first time for me, one of the very first podcasts I listened to was John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire. And it was massively helpful at the time, just listening to these quick stories of people who had started a business and made a go of it, because a business is a thing that didn't exist. And then you had a dream and a hope and a desire, and you worked and you believed when people were like, "You're crazy. What are you doing? Why would you quit your job?" And then they go, "Oh," and then eventually they're like, "I always believed in you," and
Right.
but you're listening to stories of people who went through the hard parts and they like made it work. And I loved it. And he just had this brand, and I listened to it a lot. And then I went to Podcast Movement in Anaheim in 2017, which that's an entire other story. I won those tickets because I didn't have any money.
That's awesome.
And then we used air miles to get me to LA, and it was crazy.
Wow.
And I won 2 tickets. I sold the other one to pay for my Airbnb at there. So I came out like I didn't have to pay for anything. It's great.
Wow.
It's amazing. And I'm there, and I took this class on day one that John Lee Dumas and Kate Erickson, well, I guess it's Kate Dumas now, it was his girlfriend, wife now, were teaching. And I was sitting in the room, and I hear him talking in the back. I didn't see him yet. I just heard him. And I'd spent so many hours listening to his voice that I was like, that's him.
Yeah.
And then my very second thought was, he talks really slow.
because you listen on 2 times.
I listen on 2X, so it's like, this is JLD, bring in the heat,
right? Yep.
and I'm hearing him, I'm like, spit it out, John. Right. And, but it was such a cool experience, being there and hearing his voice, because I'd spent so much time with him. And I mean, he'd built trust with me. That's why I went to that class, and I learned a ton. Like, taking that class was super helpful for me, to learn how to, then I started teaching it myself. And that's actually the same conference where I met Cliff Ravenscraft in person and told him my story. I was like,
wow.
Cliff, and he's heard it a lot. But I ended up taking a class with him a couple months later. It was, I think, his last podcasting class, because he pivoted out of it, his last like one-on-one type of thing. And it was, and so he, meeting him and hearing him and just, I understood in those moments how powerful I felt about these people who I'd learned from.
Yeah.
And I just felt like there has to be something here that can happen around this. Like, at that point in time, I knew that wherever I went, podcasting was going to be a big part of it.
Yeah.
And I got my first client just a few months after that, who just came up to me at a Mixer event and was like, "Can you help me start a podcast? I see you doing all this stuff." And I was like, "I'd love to." Client number 1, I still keep up with him.
Love it.
And the reason to finally try to answer your question, the intimacy of it allows that relationship to build. You're creating something for lawyers specifically. Let's talk about lawyers. There's a lot of different lawyers, a lot of different things they could do. Let's talk about a personal injury lawyer. I do a lot of work with personal injury lawyers. When people are in your orbit as a personal injury lawyer, they're only there because something bad happened to them or someone they love.
Yeah.
And they have questions.
Yeah.
They don't feel very good usually.
Yeah.
They're on the lawyer's website, something's gone wrong. And we know what their questions are. We know because we've been asked them 1,000 times in every consult. We see it on our SEO report. We know what these people are struggling with. We know what the pain points they have are. So we speak to those pain points. We don't make, marketing in the sense of we're not asking. We're not asking them, if you've been injured in an accident, call us now. That's not what the podcast is. One of the things I tell people over and over and over is people will suffer ads for good content, but they will not listen to your ad. Like if your podcast is an ad, no one's going to listen to it because that's not what this is for. That the ad is the ask frequently.
Yeah.
What they want is they want to feel better about the bad thing. They want to understand. My mom got hurt at Disneyland and I don't know what to do. Okay. This is something that we've dealt with. Here is what you might be worried about. Here's what you might be thinking. Here's what probably is going to happen next. Here's what you do not need to do. Be careful not to do this. Oh, good. The insurance adjuster called me and I haven't called them back. Like whatever.
Yeah.
But they feel a little bit better about the bad thing. They then listen. They might listen to another episode. Now, what do they know though? Now, what do they know? They know that you had a rough weekend playing golf because you just, you talked about it for a second because you talk about other stuff. You and I have talked about all manner of things and that are probably highly relatable to some people that are talking. Some people are going to find it off-putting. Oh, I don't like how much he says the F word. That guy's not for me. Good. Good.
There's somebody else out
there for you.
But yeah.
The faster we find out that I'm not for you, the faster both of us don't have to waste our time.
Yeah.
I tell my lawyers the same thing. Take your professional voice off. And now if that's who you are and that's just how you want to live in the world, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because some people want the professional, polished, I'm always on attitude, right? If that's you, go for it.
Right.
But if you're the kind of guy that says fuck a lot, like I have a lawyer in Florida who has a far more foul mouth than me, and he does not want that edited out because he's like, if they can't handle this in a podcast, they're never going to make it through 3 years of working with me.
Right.
And he's highly successful because there's plenty of people that come to him and go, I was worried that like all the lawyers were going to be these real uptight people. And he's like, you're just like me. Like you're just a normal guy. And they love that. And that's what we can do is we can bring ourselves to our business, but into our podcast, and we can talk to people the way, because the way I'm talking to you, if we're sitting at a bar, this is a very similar conversation. I'm aware that there's an audience here.
Sure.
So the way I might like accentuate points or go on a story on something a little longer, but otherwise like the conversation we're having is pretty similar. I would let you talk way more if we were at a bar.
Sure.
Because I would have questions for you, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I want to know about you, all the things for you, but it would still be, you would be getting the same version of me. You wouldn't be like, this is startling. I wouldn't have expected this man to talk like this. No,
right.
Like, and that's what I encourage people. It allows you to relate, allows people to relate to you and build that trust with you. And that way, when they go, okay, we got to start calling lawyers, they're going to call you first. Because they like you. I like the way you make me feel. You had that bad round of golf. I know what that feels like. You have a couple of kids and they had swimming practice, or, these little things about them that make you feel a little closer to them, a little more trustworthy. And then you meet them in person, you hear their voice again, and they keep going. You start to like them even more. And, you are just, I hate the word groom because it's like, it has all these like weird connotations now in the modern world, like in the last couple of years. But you're preparing them for the sale. You're making the sale a formality. you don't really even ask for the sale sometimes. And I find that in my business. I sponsor a lot of shows. I go on a lot of podcasts that my prospects listen to. So by the time that I'm talking to them, they know they want to hire me.
Right.
They know that they want a podcast, and they know that I'm going to be the person who makes it for them.
Yeah.
They have questions for me, but when it comes time for the sale, it's a formality.
It's a no-brainer.
Of course we're going to do this.
Yeah.
What's it look like to do this? Let's do it.
Yes.
And that's what you want. Because if you're getting a ton of resistance when it comes time for the ask, I don't think your marketing has done its job, because that's what you ultimately want. You want your marketing to be performing so well that people already are past the resistance.
Yeah.
They've already gone through all those levels of like why they shouldn't buy. Because, that's what we do. We always like try to find a reason why we shouldn't buy a thing or why this wouldn't work. And your marketing has answered all of it.
Yeah.
And, it's a much deeper question than we would have time for on 15 episodes.
Right.
But that's where a podcast really does excel, is it gives that level of comfort to people that allows them to go, yeah, even if this is more expensive, because that's my thing, is I am always going to be more expensive than most of the people you talk to, because it's value to me.
Right.
When you're working with us, you're a certain kind of person. You have a lot more money than you have time, and your time is highly valuable, and you value people that are going to do the job. They're going to do it right the first time. If they do make a mistake, they're going to own it.
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to start pointing fingers and ask you why you didn't do the, sorry about that. We're on it.
Yep.
And they value that. And because they value that allows us to be able to charge a reasonable price so we can hire good people. We can have a margin that's wide enough to sustain problems, because that's what most business owners don't take into account, is like, I can do it at this margin. Oh, can you?
Yeah.
What about when something goes wrong?
Right.
You have you don't realize how thin your margin is when $20,000 goes sideways somewhere.
Yeah.
Or you have to, some bad things happen.
Yep.
Winter is coming. Tony Robbins always says that winter is coming.
Right.
Don't be surprised when it shows up. Right.
Yeah.
Like, why would you be surprised when winter comes? Like, it's always coming. And so that's why your margin needs to be reasonable, so you can batten down the hatches for winter. Yeah. And so charge a reasonable price. And the kind of clients I want, I found out early in my career that the kind of clients I want weren't hiring me because I was too inexpensive. They didn't believe me.
Right.
Well, and I didn't know yet. I was still learning. I was basically giving it away.
Yeah.
And they just, I have this thought all the time. When I see a product that I'm interested in and the price is too low, I keep moving.
Yep.
Because I'm positive you can't deliver that product in a way that I'm going to want it.
Yep.
At that price. I'm positive.
Yep.
Just because I know how things work.
Yep.
And so I was losing people because they would go, how could you be a legitimate business at that price?
Right.
And so I love that. And it keeps you out of the race for the bottom, because it's never ending.
Yep.
If you're going to try to beat people on price, I'd much rather beat them on value, because that's much harder to replicate.
Yeah.
Is just be really, really good at what you do. Be so committed to delivering and over delivering, and thinking about things that other people aren't thinking about.
Yes.
And taking the time to deliver a product. Today I was talking to my creative director, and we have a new client that wants to do way too many ad breaks. They want to do like 4 ad breaks in a 30-minute show. And I'm like, that's so many ad breaks. That's so annoying.
Wow.
Dude, you're telling me it's too much. It's too much. Yeah. But we were talking about like, okay, how can we do this in a way that would make it work for them? Because they want to have like 10 sponsors. I'm like, that's so many sponsors. And there's I'm like, how are we going to find 4 ad breaks? Because it takes our editors time to find a good ad break.
Yeah.
You don't want to break right in the middle of something that matters. Like,
right.
If I'm in the middle of telling you a story that's emotional, you can't ad break there.
No.
And because some podcasts do. Some are
Right.
just dynamically inserted
Pisses
at
everybody
20
off.
minutes.
Yes.
Dude, it's the worst experience when
Yes.
halfway through someone's word, you're listening to mattresses.
Yeah.
And
that
it just
that's
pulls you out.
detrimental to your brand too. Like it erodes
Absolutely.
that trust, and because it's like then it makes, even though it's unintentional on your part, it just erodes the trust on the other side. Like, oh, this person's just about money, you know?
Well, and you're not taking the time to do it right.
Yeah.
Even if they don't like cognitively in the front of their mind know it.
Yeah.
They go, I don't like that experience. Like
Mhm.
that was weird that it just like cut off in the middle of the story. And then I heard 2 minutes of ads and now I'm trying to like re-engage. I'm like, what was he talking about again?
Yeah.
And so we're talking about how are we going to pull this off if we're going to pull it off. And just that little thing of we're going to make sure our editors put the ad break in a place that is logical for the listener, because that's valuable for the listener, but that's also that because it's valuable for the client.
Yeah.
And that's just a tiny example of the conversations we have every single day about things that I don't think a lot of companies think about.
Yeah.
Because we are thinking about delivering a really good product. And it's a long game.
Yes.
To do things that might not necessarily look all that ROI beneficial on, upfront.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I feel like I have so many questions. Like I keep writing stuff down and I'm like, I feel like we could talk for 4 hours.
I mean, if you tell me, you're like, look, give me 30 seconds on this, I can try.
Oh my, I don't know. Cause I think some of the what you're really bringing is you're also tying in stories. So that's just, I don't want to shortchange.
Pro tip, storytelling. Yeah. Storytelling is a big part of, it just kind of comes naturally to me. I've gotten better at it just by learning about it, but it's so important to relationships of all kinds.
Yeah.
When we meet people and we become friends with them, their stories resonate with us and it just activates the brain. It's easier to get your message across if it's in the form of a story. I mean, whenever I do presentations, I always start with some kind of hook, just some kind of statement that brings you in to the middle of a story.
Yeah.
And then you kind of forget that we were even talking about the story. And then somewhere in the middle, I'm going to drop a little silly thing that like, oh, right, we did talk about that. And then when you think the presentation's completely over, you think that my last slide has rolled. There's one more that closes the loop on the story that you forgot we were even talking about. And it's very powerful to, you don't have to overthink it in the beginning because everybody has stories, but you're just talking about your life and the things. And that keeps their brains activated. If you're trying to convey information that might be a little dense, might be a little hard to follow, you've got to do it with stories.
Yeah.
Because, you hear those people that are monotone on their podcast that are reading from a script, like, bro, that is where you hide a body.
Right.
No one's going to find it.
Right. Exactly.
Because the brain, you could want that information so bad and your brain's like, too bad.
Yeah.
Too bad. That is painful for me and I'm not using the calories.
Yeah. Right. Well, and I'm even thinking like just from me as the host, as you're talking there, I think that's also partly why I'm able to write down so many questions is because you're telling it through a story. You could have said it differently in like list form, informational. And I think my brain, when people do that, my brain just sort of like goes in a la la land. And like, I'm like, oh, okay. Wait, where were we?
Article.
Right, exactly. and it's like, but because you're telling it in the story, I'm like, oh, he said this word. I'm going to like go back to that. And from the listener's perspective, it's just, there's so many things I can hang my hat on because it's like, oh, he said this. And I think that's just super important. The piece part of what you have done even in just this conversation that some others don't do that I wish more people would do is you're also giving like emotional, you're giving the emotion, but you're also giving like specifics instead of just staying like heady and high level. Cause heady and high level, I mean, that just like, I'm all about principles. I love principles, but when you don't bring it down to earth and tell me like how it actually practically like played out, I don't understand why it should matter to me. And
it's not
you
relatable.
told me why these things matter to you because you told the emotion, you told the specifics. You told me like where you were when you were listening to the podcast, right? And it was mundane. Like I know exactly, like I'm picturing like where you were in that moment, and I'll be able to replay this conversation much easier because like you told it through your story.
You were there.
Right. It felt like I was there. Right. Okay. I have one last question just to wrap things up. So you're referencing these podcasts that have had such meaningful impact. You are trying to produce things, and your company's trying to produce things that has actual meaningful impact on people's lives. I think a question that, especially if people are trying to use this as marketing, how often should people be, this is a very tactical question, but like how often should people be posting their podcast and content from their podcast? Because it's hard for me to wrap my mind around. We'll have clients come in and say, "Oh, I want to do something, every quarter or whatever," and I'm like, "That sounds fine." From like
For a newsletter,
right, but like that's not what this is, and so like I don't know. How often should somebody actually be posting their podcast if they're trying to make the meaningful impact that you're talking about?
Yeah. So I'll give the lawyer answer.
Love
it.
It
Depends.
Yes.
That's the lawyer answer.
Yeah.
Is there's a lot of goes into this,
Yeah.
but I'll paint with some finer strokes as well. Of what are we trying to accomplish? Because every podcast is going to be slightly different. The reason that you make a podcast, I have many people who show up and become clients that on the first call, I ask them, why are we doing this? Well, somebody told me I should do it. What's it going to be about? Well, I don't know. Okay. Well, we got some ground to cover.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of different reasons you could do this. The main ones in my space are, we talked a lot today. I think really almost exclusively we talked about FAQ style content. It's really what I call it. Is somebody has a problem, I'm going to speak directly to that frequently asked question. They're going to feel a little bit better about the bad thing. They're going to call me. That's a very popular thing. I think it's one of the better ways that a lot of businesses can use their content. It's certainly probably the fastest ROI, the more direct path to money. Somebody's in your funnel and you're nurturing them.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll close at a higher rate. And then I do a lot called that we call it educating referral sources, where I had a call with a workers' comp attorney, and he had the same thing, like wasn't really sure what he wanted to do. And after going through all the conversation about why, what he was doing, I'm always asking, because I'm always trying to find it. Where is the thing that you are uniquely qualified to do?
Yeah.
If it's not going to be directly FAQ content. And he was a workers' comp defense attorney, which I feel bad saying that out loud because I was a plaintiff's lawyer and I work with a ton of plaintiffs lawyers, and we're like, fuck the defense,
Right.
But he was trying to figure out how to get more clients, just build his clients base more. And I'm trying to figure out, where are all your referrals coming from? And most of his referrals were coming from adjusters. And I was like, well, that's perfect. So let's talk about the adjusters. How do they find you, right? What do they struggle with? Like, are there things that they call you about? Yeah, they call me about the forms. Like, the forms are a nightmare. They never know how to deal with the forms. I have to help them with the forms all the time. This dude has a podcast where it's mainly about educating the adjusters on how all of that works, all the little nuances of the things. And it's, so we're figuring out how to do that, how to like find referral sources, give them something they want to know. I have a lot of trial lawyers that speak directly to trial lawyers about how to be better trial lawyers. Some of them are how to run their firms. And that's a longer term play where you're looking to get people to know you, like you, trust you. And maybe if they have a co-counsel case, maybe if they have something to refer to you in a different state, those kind of things. And then some podcasts exist simply to have a conversation with someone that you want to have a conversation with.
Right.
And that's crazy. Like, some people hear that and they're like, oh my God, I've never thought of that. And I'm like, you're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Because for lawyers especially, that's incredible. Because as a lawyer, if I was a practicing lawyer and I heard that you got hurt, I can't just call you and say, hey, heard you got hit by a truck. How about we, talk about what we can do for you? I can't do that.
Right.
I could send you a letter with a bunch of rules. I mean, you get them. You get a speeding ticket.
Right.
You get that stuff. You get in an accident. You get that stuff. But there's a lot of rules to that. And you're going to get about 50 of them sometimes. And the fonts are dictated by the bar, how large things can be.
Wow.
It's all like really hyper regulated and it's got a lot of rules around it and very competitive. But what so for some of my clients, what they will do is they might have a podcast where they talk to the most successful CFOs at Fortune 500 companies. And they're not really even thinking about the listener too much. Listener's a nice little byproduct.
Yep.
But what they do is they can get, they can send you an email or however they choose and say, hey, we've got this podcast where we interview yada, yada, yada. We think you'd be a great fit. Here's 2 people that have been on the podcast before. And now they're on a call with you for 30 or 45 minutes, getting to know you, feeling you out, understanding who you are, getting to maybe build some know, like, trust. Then you make the podcast, you send it to them and their staff, and you make some clips making them look really good. You send it to them. Who knows? They're in your network at a minimum.
Yeah.
You have now added that person to your network. They probably have a pretty good feeling for you. They might see you again at some point. Like, that's a wonderful thing to have, right? So there's a lot of different reasons you could do a podcast. And all of those, if you're doing one to outreach to people, you probably don't need to publish as much. Right. Because the listener's not really that we're not really thinking about the listeners much. We don't need to think about our schedule as aggressively.
Yeah.
Like, if that really is all we're thinking about, is using it as a tool to get people on the phone. But if you're trying to develop a relationship with the listener, you need to be showing up with some kind of regularity. If you show up quarterly, now, this is not a hard and fast rule. Dan Carlin, if anybody, could tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, right? On that point, because I don't really follow hardcore history as much as I used to, but he has always just kind of showed up every once in a while and dropped 4 hours on you.
Right.
And he has a really famous podcast. People love it. It's well researched. It's well executed.
But he's an outlier.
And yeah, right. And I even heard him, I think it was on Sam Harris's podcast recently, because I never like to let an episode go by without mentioning Sam Harris. He's my guy now. I've been listening to him for like 8 years. He's my very, very, very much my number one podcast I listen to. But Dan Carlin was on there and he was saying, he's like, I don't know how I could do this. I don't know how I could start this today, like something like his. And it would be, I think it'd be much harder for him to do something like that, to break into the space, because he broke in at a time where there wasn't nearly as much competition for, not many voices. And he would spend all this time and then make an episode and drop it.
Right.
And that worked for him.
Yeah.
But if you are using this for business, I think showing up pretty regularly for our clients twice a month is really the sweet spot. I would say by far the majority of our clients are twice a month, because it really hits the sweet spot between generating enough content that you're staying regular and relevant, and your time, because time matters. And that's where you really have to think when you're starting a podcast is, what am I going to try to do? Like, how am I going to execute this? And so 2 episodes a month's been the really sweet spot to thread that needle, because it keeps them with content, and they make, we make the videos that they're able to use on their social feed. So when people are looking for them and researching, they've got all of this relevant new content. And when things are happening in the world, if it's something they want to talk about, they're not 3 months later talking about it. They're within 2 weeks.
Yep.
Like, they can pretty quickly get something together and get it out. And that's important, just to stay relevant about what's going on and just staying in front of people, because you don't know where people are going to be when they need you. And that's the nice thing about podcasting, is it is here forever.
Right.
We have a client who just reliably, she's a family law client. She released an episode 5 or 6 years ago that is reliably her most listened to episode. I think it's called Divorcing a Narcissist, because everybody thinks they're divorcing a narcissist, right?
Right.
And it's with a psychologist, psychiatrist, and still, it's the episode people go back to and listen to the most. It's incredible, the long tail that thing's had. But, depending on why you're doing it, you need to be showing up fairly regularly. And again, it's always going to be, why am I doing it? Who am I doing it for? Why would they listen? How's it turn into money? There's our little BuzzFeed checklist there.
Right.
Those are the kind of the big 4 that I think about with people. It's like, we've got to nail that stuff down, or we're just wasting our time out here.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of Grow Your Podcast. If you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. And if you're in the greater Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, and you're a CEO, you're a marketer, you're a thought leader, keynote speaker, someone who is trying to invest into their personal or business brand, I would love to talk with you. We think video podcasting is one of the absolute best ways of growing your brand over time, because we think that when people see your face and hear how you think, you will attract the right kind of client. So if you want to learn more about how video podcasting can do that, let's set up a discovery call. Just go to cincinnatipodcaststudio.com/discovery, or click the link in the description. And I want to thank you so much for your time, attention, and trust, and we'll see you next time.